preaching, but not for not at being in school. I want to talk about reaching the Gen Z. And this is my topic, moving beyond the walls, approaching the Gen Z. Moving beyond the walls, approaching the Gen Z. And in my sermon, I want to present a few strategies for reaching and developing our Gen Z generation in our churches without sidelining the other generations that are amongst our congregation. I want somebody to read for me 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. And another one be ready with Romans 10:14. Somebody read for me 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. And then another one be ready with Romans 10:14. Yes.
1 Timothy 4, chapter 1, verse 1 says, the Spirit clearly says that in late times some will abandon the faith, following deceived spirits, things taught by demons. Such things comes through hypocritical liars, whose consciences have been smeared as with hot iron.
Good. Is that 2 Timothy?
No.
2 Timothy. I said first?
Yes.
Sorry, 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy. Sorry, very sorry. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 and 2.
In the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who will judge the living and the dead in the view of his appearing and his kingdom, I give you this charge. Preach the word, be prepared in season and out of season, correct, rebuke, encourage, with a great patience and carefully instruction.
Thank you. Romans 10:14.
Romans 10:14. How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching?
Praise God. I want to surprise you because I want to read from the Gen Z Bible. I am a fan of youth ministry. I love so much. I love interacting with the young people, and I spend most of my hours either at home or in the office interacting with a number. And their world is a bit different from our world because they have thoughts, they have perceptions, and they have beliefs that can easily drift them away or are always drifting them away from the one that we are in. I was roaming in the internet and then I came across a Gen Z Bible and I seriously want to download that app and I read. And I will read from verse 1 to verse 9 of 2 Timothy 4. Yo, listen up. I'm giving you a serious heads up in front of God and Jesus Christ, the ultimate judge. Judges who are going to assess everyone, living and dead, when they make their grand entrance into their kingdom. Spread the gospel. Always be ready, whether it's trendy or not. Call out, correct, and encourage with patience and knowledge. There will be a time when people won't be able to handle the truth. Instead, they'll go after whatever trickles their fancy and surround themselves with teachers who tell them what they want to hear. And they'll totally tune out the truth and start obsessing over made-up stories. Just stay on top of things. Stay strong through tough times. Spread the good word like an influencer. And prove yourself fully committed to your mission. Yo, I'm all geared up to bounce, and it looks like a time has come for me to dip. Yo, I've totally slayed the battle, completed my epic quest, and stayed faithful, no doubt. I'm super hyped because I know there is this epic reward awaiting for me in the future, like a lit crown of righteousness. The Lord, the totally fair judge, is gonna hook me up on that day. And get this, it's not just for me, but for all those who are legit, stoked about seeing him too. Make sure you come chill with me real soon, okay? And Romans 10:14 says, yo, how can they be like calling out to someone they don't even believe in? And how can they believe in someone they never even heard of? And like, how can they hear about it if no one's out there preaching about it? And like, how can they preach, yo, unless they are like sent? Just as it is written, man, how awesome are the feet of those who spread the gospel news of peace and share cool news about awesome stuff. There are some truths that we need to face as pastors in this dispensation. That the world has shifted. The way we were groomed is not the way we are grooming our children. The way we lived is not the way our children are living. What we knew when we were in their age is not what they know in this world, in that age that we were in a few years ago. Which means the world is rapidly changing and the church faces a critical challenge, engaging with its generationally existing congregation. Because in the church, you will meet generation alphas. I don't know you, this generation that is Jewish. There are so many generations that I even don't know all of them. Here to Sijuni Gani, there is I don't know generation X. All those generations are there. And there are those who are above every generation. They are old. They come to church. And we must connect with them and we must reach them. And in this sermon I intend to bring forth a few strategies that will enable pastors and servants of God to reach the Generation Z without sidelining the rest of the generations. As you all know, this is a generation born between 1997 and 2012. And this generation is often characterized by technological savviness, diverse perspectives and desire for authenticity, which presents opportunities and obstacles for many churches and, by extension, many pastors. This has created a huge gap between the Gen Z and the pastors, between the Gen Z and the church, between the Gen Z and their parents, and between the Gen Z and the state. The cry of every parent is, I am failing to understand my son. I can no longer understand my daughter. Why? The parents feel these young people in their homes are becoming too much. They are now finding them to be people who cannot take instructions. But the question is, where is the problem? Because this has created a gap, and a big gap. We saw the other day that Gen Z are speaking a different language, and the government is speaking a different language, until people went into the streets, until it was becoming a national disaster. The country almost sank down because nobody was understanding the language of the Gen Z. Not the parents, not the pastors. A pastor was recorded on live television saying, I was going to church with my son, and at some point he told me, Daddy, let me alight here and join my friends. You go to church. What does that relate? There is a gap to some extent. He is not feeling to be at the right place when in church, while his friends are in the streets, and according to them, doing what they can but following live stream sermons. And the truth is, we need them in church. Now, as a pastor, you will be out there one day, you'll be faced by this reality. As a pastor, how do you relate with them? Just a few hints about the Gen Zs, that they speak a different language. You heard, as I was reading from their Bible, I don't know who wrote this Bible, but it must be a genius. They speak a different language. They don't relate. They don't want even to relate with the ordinary language. Once you meet a Gen Z who is a Pokomo in town, address them in Pokomo, they will address you back in either English or Kiswahili. It's not that they hate their language. That is who they are. That is where they are. And that is where we are. They want to dress in their own ways. He'll buy a very wonderful jeans, but he will rip it off. And very critical areas that in our time are places that needs to be deemed as sacred. I boarded a tuk-tuk the other day. In fact, it was yesterday evening as I was heading to church. And the driver had his jeans ripped off. Just here, and then here. Then here on both sides. And they are comfortable. They will want to come to church with such clothing. Our daughters will want to come to church with skin tight. Zinaitwaje? Acha hizi jeans. There are those that are they want to come to church like that. They want to come for choir practice and praise and worship practice with tumbo cuts. They want, when they put on long trousers, they be on their high waist, and they want to come to church. But when they come to church, they are sidelined. They are seen and quoted to be sinners. They immediately summoned and they are questioned and grilled. And that is why they prefer staying at home. Or they prefer going out on the beaches. And that is where we lose them. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. They also want to feel accepted as they are. That is the Gen Z. They have to feel accepted. But how can we accept it? Yet there is a gap. The best thing to do is to build a bridge to fit or to seal this gap. Build a bridge that will bring meaningful connections with the Gen Z. That bridge, Romans is saying, will never be built by angels, but by people who will be sent with the gospel to them. The other day they were saying after they are done with the steps, they will come back to the church. They will greet some pastors. And when you hear being greeted by Gen Z, you know the obvious. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Pastors and church teams need to be forward focused. Pastors need to embrace the Gen Z just as they embrace the other guys in church. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. How can we reach the Gen Z? Number one, implement shared leadership models. Implement shared leadership models. These guys seek inclusion and connection through active participation. They are often critical of traditional hierarchies and prefer flexible organizational structures. They know that some of these traditional hierarchies that exist in our churches were created to fit or to suit some perception in those olden days. But as they are right away, they tend to grow to hate them because those hierarchies are not serving the purposes of their world. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. The other day I was talking to my CED worker in our DCC and told him they need to send an errand to the national CED office that they need to think about the CYA uniform. They seriously need to think about it, because these guys have no interest to come for CYA classes, because they feel those uniforms, they are old-fashioned. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. And I am glad a very senior person in the region for the CED is here. If the message has not reached him, this is a plea to do this sermon. We need to seal the gap. We need to build a bridge. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. By involving young adults in leadership roles and decision-making processes, churches can empower them to shape the direction and mission of the community. Remember, when they are close to you, that is where they will always remain. And when they drift far away from you, there is no way they can think of coming back on their own. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Shared leadership distributes power and leverages each member's diverse resources and experiences. This collaborative approach can help bridge the generation gap and create a sense of ownership among the Gen Z. Number 2, reimagine church. We need to reimagine church. We need to break away from the traditional worship programs. We need to sit down and reimagine it and bring it afresh without diluting its core manner. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. The church should not be confined by tradition. The church should meet the evolving needs of congregants across generations. Many models have been handed down over the generations, but unfortunately, church leaders often fail to innovate their church models to address the times and go beyond the walls. Ministry should be driven by the needs of the people rather than following a rigid agenda. Drawing inspiration from Jesus' ministry and early church's objectives, which prioritized meeting the community's current needs, can guide the church in reimagining its role and relevance in the lives of these young people that, if we joke around, is getting lost. And in the near future, our Bible schools will close because there will be no more people who are being called to pastoral work. It is us to begin building that bridge now. Number 3, increase the use of technology. The church should not be confined. Increase the use of technology. We are in a digital age. That is very true. And we can bring the Gen Z back to church and retain them in church by the use of the same technology. We can connect them. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. We can connect with them. Research has shown that adolescents and millennials are spiritually active via social media, often citing their faith as a source of feeling centered. To bridge generational divides, churches should embrace technology and engage with young adults where they are most active. This includes using social media platforms, creating online communities, and providing digital resources that resonate with Gen Z's values and interests. The other week, I was at the church where I minister for a men's fellowship. Because I've been there for a number of years now, I surprised them by making sure we develop the prayer partner approach. And I thank God. It is working. If it can work to men, surely we can reach the Gen Z digitally. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Our approach should fit them. Number 4, provide authentic teaching and discipleship. Preaching should be reimagined to suit the Gen Z without diluting the gospel. Gen Z exhibits a genuine desire for spiritual growth and authenticity. Rather than seeking charismatic pastors to preach to them, they desire meaningful relationships and mentors who will walk alongside them on their faith journey. Churches can meet this need by offering teaching that promotes self-study and application of scripture, equipping young adults to authentically share their faith and engage with the world around them. Discipleship programs should focus on building deep, lasting relationships that nurture spiritual growth and authenticity, as well as making these programs friendly to them. A pastor needs to be busy kama wale watu wanafanya biashara kwa mtandao. There are some organizations that when they employ you, it's you and your gadget and the stable Wi-Fi in the home. From dawn to dusk. We are heading into that world where pastors need to be technological giants. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. As much as we'll be studying theology, let us be people who get interest in ICT. And let us be people who will be interested in knowing everything concerning the internet, because we can make it a tool of evangelism and reaching out to our Gen Zs. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Number 5, listen to understand and improve. Preachers are at a test most cases because they are trained to teach and preach. And most of us do not have the leverage to listen. And when we listen, we don't master. That is why we don't improve. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. To connect with the Gen Z, it is essential for the church to be a listening and learning community. Just as business seek to understand their customers and adopt to changing demographics, churches can adopt a similar approach to understanding how young adults experience faith. Listening to disengagement narratives can provide valuable insights into why some young adults leave the church and how they can be brought back into the fold. This effort creates a partnership and opens the door for prodigal sons and daughters to return. One day I was at the gate. There are some days that I just find myself sitting by the gate or at the gate and discussing with young people from this church and some passers-by. One day I caught a young man by surprise. I told him, you know what? Today I'm going to see where you live. It was around 8 p.m. He could not believe that. But see, you are serious. I told him, down serious. We are going together to where you live. But see, why did you prepare me early? I told him that is how Jesus will come. And I went. And he was happy. Don't tell me how I found that place. I understood. He was working. But the fact that he was single answers almost every question why the house was that way. But we had a good fellowship. He opened up. We talked stuff that he could not share when he was in church. And my young people in church know. Sometimes after service I tell them this, you are back. Tumaini is my witness here. Jira is my witness there. They are among the Gen Z people that understand me better. Number 6, host relevant community events. Gen Z places a premium on lifestyle balance, including having fun and enjoying life. Wanasema kupiga sherehe. Kama mjawahi kusikia hiyo makanisa kwenu na vijana wetu, basi tunaenda kupiga sherehe. Basi kesho ni madaraka au tupati huku. Kesho tutakuja kusafisha church mapema juu tunaenda beach. Tunaenda kukula pare. That is their language. And if you want to survive, usiwasimamie mbele, wapishe wapite. Nguvu yao ni kubwa. Praise God. The church has a unique opportunity to model true, abundant life rather than simply preaching about it. Hosting relevant community events that serve the interests and passions of young adults can create a sense of belonging and authenticity within the church. These events shall extend beyond traditional church gatherings and engage young adults in meaningful ways that align with their values and interests outside the institutional church. A church, we began a Valentine's dinner. At first, the council never understood me. They thought I am giving the church a worldly program, and they questioned me about who is Valentine, what is the meaning of Valentine, what is the impact of this event that you are trying to bring in church to the people, what is its biblical foundations and so forth. But I told them, this is the world celebrates this love event. The church speaks about love. Where do they celebrate it? And I told them I have every reason to bring the young people to church on the 14th of February night from 6 to 8:30 p.m. so that we may talk to them about love. And they will contribute, and we will cook nice food. We will arrange this church hall as it looks when they go to those big hotels. You see, they don't contribute much. Ukitaka kuja na mkoa wako, unatupatia 1,000. Kwa unakuja peke yako, you pay 500. But if you can come with your mkoa like Robert, you can bring her. We have no problem with that. We have no issue, provided your pastor is aware. And if you are single, you can still come for Valentine's dinner at AIC Mtopanga, because maybe that is where the Lord will bless you. We create the environment for you to interact, to socialize. And if you feel you can specialize, who are we to say no to what God has planned to happen? And that event has been awesome. It attracted even married couples. In fact, it's only this year that we don't have it, because our young people begged to do something different. And then they came back to me and said, I think we are going back to Valentine's dinner. But the church will be full to capacity with married couples, young people, and we will dance. We will put some good music. The last time Life on Band came there and I came to learn about this song. La 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 la. Obina song. That was the first time I heard that song. And we danced with my wife. And it was good. We cannot go to clubs. But we can create these relevant community events where our young people can socialize, can integrate, can have fun to their fullest. And if possible, they can eat special foods. It is a bit expensive, but it is worth it. Worship arena. If it's a day for worship arena, worship experience as they call it, don't go to dominate as the pastor. Go as a person who is invited and also there to enjoy life. When it comes to having fun, I think I try. Tumaini and Jira can say something, and those who were there during our Yada worship season, Yada season 1 worship time at AIC Mtopanga, we are supposed to close down by 6. Lakini tulijikuta imefika saa 1 na watu hawataki kwenda. Very many people came and it was wonderful. I want to finish. Time is really against me. The last one. Realign with the original mission of the Black Church. Realign with the original mission of the Black Church. Look, churches need to reconnect. The original mission of the Black Church emphasized economic, educational, and political advancement. As young adults questions the church's silence on contemporary injustices, they seek leadership and advocacy. The church sometimes is dead silent on national matters that are affecting the people and affecting the church, but the church is silent. And then you begin asking yourself, is the church part of the state? What is the role of the church when the state is not moving in the right direction? The big people in our churches, the leaders, they are quiet. Or maybe it is because walienda katoa mapepo State House. I hear there were demons in State House, and great men of God and prophets were sent there to go and chase those demons out. And when the demons came out, I think they attacked the Gen Zs. That is why the Gen Zs found their way to the streets. Now we have an impeachment agenda in our highest parliament. God help us. Church leaders should consider their role in advocating for social and economic adjustment today, aligning with the legacy of the Black Church's mission. Connecting with Gen Z requires proactive, innovative, intergenerational approaches to embracing change and inclusivity. By implementing the ministry recommendation outlined here, the church can bridge the generational gap and create a vibrant, welcoming community for young adults. Generation Z is the generation of people born between that, I had said that, and they are also youngest shaped generation between millennials and Generation Alpha. Their identity has been shaped by the digital age, climate anxiety, and COVID-19. As I wind up this session today, let us be guided not by these insights, but by the challenges that faces the church. As Generation Z teens grow up, many are moving further away from Christian faith and challenging church leaders to adapt to new expectations from the youngest in their flocks. The young people of the Gen Z are diverse, educated, and social media savvy. When it comes to faith, they are open to Jesus and his teachings, but skeptical about institutions and leaders putting on a facade. They are a very open lot. This allows me to see how much faith and trust they have in Jesus. It showed me Christianity is relational with one another and relational with God. They expect the same kind of transparency, honesty, and authenticity from their leaders. For some generations, the more mythical their spiritual leaders, the more they trusted them. And to some extent, it ended up with disaster. Gen Zers want there to be no gap between this and that leader, between this preacher and that preacher. No gap in persona, no gap in who I am and who I present myself to be. Gen Z students also appreciate two-way conversations where they're invited to think out loud with leaders and come to conclusions together. This attitude applies to church as well, with young Christians wary of spiritual abuse, as well as the prevalence of sexism and racism. So they tend to put more weight on the people and teachings they find at church than on the church's name or tradition. Generations need to balance love and truth in how they respond to sin struggles of the Gen Z. They should talk with more people their age to better understand the culture Gen Z is immersed in, including the prevalence of LGBTQ identity. Young Christians can get frustrated with vague responses or Christianese. They need leaders who understand their struggles and explain their answers transparently, as put forth by Andrew Root. I want to finish with this quotation. They would like to be connected in a larger way and feel a draw of purpose that comes from something outside of them, but they don't necessarily trust that. Leaders should avoid an instrumentalizing of their relationships with the Gen Zs. Have relationships for relationships' sake. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. That is where we are. Those are the people we have, and soon they are going to be the majority in our churches. Because this generation is going, and it's going fast. It is upon us as pastors to make that hard choice. Remaining rigid or moving forth to them with the gospel. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. We are called to rebuke, to teach, And to do what? Call out, correct, and encourage with patience and knowledge. That is us. So when we engage these young people, our core work should be as outlined in 2 Timothy 4, verse 1 and 2. We need to go out to them. They are outside the church. Most of them are outside the church. We need to go for them. How? These are some of the strategies. Creativity is also part of our training, and may the Lord bless us. We want to ask our Crystal to say a word of prayer.
Thank you, Paul, for the challenge. I think that can be developed to be a very nice paper. And it can be expanded to be a 3-day conference for pastors with our bishops and leaders, because the strategies and also the proposals are quite nice. If the church is gaining traction in the global south, I think that generation should not be left. Tuesday we sang here that we are a chosen generation. The speaker told us even the generations to come are also chosen. Generation Alpha, Generation Delta, Gamma, and the rest, they are also chosen to be recipients of the glorious gospel. But we need to understand them so that we can minister to them. It's a big challenge. Now, I have some few notices before